Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for clicking on this video, joining me on another bike review. Today we're going to look at an electric cargo bike. Behind me is the 2021 Eunorau G20 electric cargo bike. Now it's a 48 volt system, 500 watt mid-drive motor, and it has an expandable battery system. So what do I mean by that? Well, it comes standard with one battery, but you can choose to add a second battery at any point in time. And it's all plug and play. There's already a mounting place for it and a plug where you just plug it right into the controller. So dual battery option on this bike. Now this bike currently sells for $2,099 on the website, and I will link it below so you can get there easily. But today we're going to go through it, of course, front to back, and I can show you an up close look at all the components so you can see what you get for your money. We'll go through everything on the bike. I'll give you some information on things that surprised me, things I liked, things I didn't like about it, and show you some performance footage of me pedaling the bike as fast as I can and how fast it goes on throttle and up hills, all that information in hopes that it will help you in your buying decision if you are considering getting an electric cargo bike. But before we get started, there's two things I always like to tell you. Number one is that I am not a professional in any way. I'm not an e-bike technician or electrical engineer or anything like that. I'm just an e-bike enthusiast. I'm just a guy that likes to ride e-bikes. And the second thing is that this bike is here courtesy of Eunorau. Full disclosure, I did not purchase this bike. They sent me this bike for the purpose of testing and doing a review video, so that's what we're doing today. Now let's take an up close look at all the parts and pieces and maybe answer some of your questions. All right, well, let's start taking a look at this G20 cargo bike from Eunorau. And again, it starts at $2,099, but would be a little bit higher if you decided to take advantage of that dual battery design and purchase an extra battery pack. You can buy a 14 or 17 amp hour battery pack that can fit right in here. There's mounting points for it already and a spot to plug it right into the controller, all plug and play. Kind of a cool little option to have on this bike. If you feel the range isn't adequate for you, you can add on an extra battery at any point in time. But let's start here at the front. I like to go front to back on the bike, so we'll start with the tires. They're a very smooth tire, very quiet. You don't hear these tires on the street at all. It's kind of interesting how the tread pattern goes the entire way around. Usually there's a sidewall here, but not on this bike. It's tread the whole way around. It's very smooth, fast rolling. They are 24 by 2.3 is the size. They're Kenda tires, Kenda Conniption, I think they're called. When I looked them up, 30 to 80 PSI is the pressure you can run these at. So a very firm tire, fast rolling tire, very quiet tire, very smooth tire. I didn't mind the tires at all on this one. No reflective stripe or anything. You do have a reflector there in the spokes though. So let's swing around here and take a look at the brakes. So they are a 180 millimeter disc brake, mechanical disc brakes, not hydraulic, and they're branded Z-Star is the brand on there. I know on the website it said Tektro. However, I think this is probably a supply chain issue where I've noticed a lot lately on e-bikes. Sometimes the components here and there are a little bit different than what it says on the website. So just something to be aware of if you're going to buy an electric bike. Z-Star mechanical disc brakes is what I got on this one. The stopping power was okay. I didn't run into any issues with it, but you know, being that this is a cargo bike, you're going to have extra weight on the back probably with you, and that it's, you know, a bike that's over $2,000. I kind of feel like it should have hydraulic brakes, but they were adequate. They weren't outstanding. All right, let's move on to suspension, or lack thereof, I guess. There's no suspension fork on the front, no suspension on the back, and you know, this is something I'll point out, something you need to know is you're going to feel that if you plan on riding this on any kind of bumpy terrain. You know, I did a section of greenway that was, the pavement was kind of rippled from, I guess, roots growing underneath it, or I don't know what. And I rode it through a couple open fields, and it just, you know, the bumpy surfaces, it just rattles the heck out of your teeth. You notice that there's no suspension on this, but I mean, really, this bike is designed, I think, for use in the city and around your town, maybe towing some kids on the back or delivering something. It's best suited for smooth, flat, paved surfaces, that's for sure. So the bike comes standard with both front and rear fenders. They're just plastic fenders. You got a little mud flap here on the bottom, collects the spray pretty well. And while we're up here, you can take a look at this nifty little gadget. That is the deflopulator, I believe that is called, which just, when it's parked, it helps keep the wheel from flopping side to side. It keeps it straight. On the back, again, plastic fenders, and you've got these little clear plastic shields that protect, you know, anybody or anything that's on the back from getting into your spokes. So you got these big like plexiglass shields here covering your wheel. Scooting back up to the front, you can see you've got your mounting points right here for a front rack, front basket system. If you choose to add that, they sell that on the website. For cable management, it's wrapped nice and neat all the way up to here, and then there's a little bit of a spider web going on, but there's just so many wires on these bikes anymore that it's hard to keep it pretty. Brake levers have a rubber insert in them. They feel nice. You've got rubber grips that, you know, they're pretty locked into place. I didn't really have any issue with them spinning. They feel nice. You've got twist throttle. You've got your Shimano 7-speed shifting mechanism here. I'm fine with that. It's a pretty standard issue on these bikes anymore. Skip the screen for a moment. Come over here. Your all your buttons, mode and plus minus, power, turns everything on. And that's about all the controls going on up here. You do have a bell integrated into this lever. So we can turn the display on here. You can see what that looks like. Gives you all the information that it should. So you got your battery indicator, pedal assist number, speed, odometer, max speed, average speed, all that stuff. I actually really like the look of this screen. It's a sharp looking screen. It's one of the better ones I've seen. There's only one issue that I have with it, and that is I wear sunglasses like every day, and I wear polarized sunglasses, and I cannot see this screen at all with those on. That is an unusual thing that you probably don't ever think of. Other than that, I think it looks fantastic. Now the handlebar stem is adjustable. You just release this lever here and you can raise it up, which is awesome. I mean, for me, being a taller rider, I could lift it up to a comfortable position. I love that about it. I was nice and upright on the bike. It doesn't go crazy low. I'll put some dimensions on the screen of how high and low, but there is a good amount of adjustment in that. The handlebars are nice and narrow end to end here. They're not very wide, so if you're going to be navigating through traffic, that would be handy. The handlebar stem, for some reason, folds. There's a folding mechanism here, and they flop down. I don't exactly know why they fold, because nothing else on the bike folds, but the handlebar stem does fold. But overall, I'm happy with that. I enjoyed having the adjustment there where I could raise it up nice and high for me. All right, where do we want to go next? How about battery? Let's talk about battery pack. So this battery pack is an 11.6 amp hour battery, 48 volt, 11.6 amp hour. And like I said before, you have the option to add a second battery pack right here. You got your mounting points for it right there. And right here is where you plug it in. So it's all plug and play. You get the second battery pack, plugs right into the side of the controller there. Pretty cool. You can get a 14 amp hour or 17 amp hour to add there, giving this thing probably an insane range. I don't have that battery pack, so I couldn't test that, obviously. This 11.6 amp hour battery is the one that comes standard with the bike, and then you can remove it if you want here. You just key in right here and pull the lever and it slides out from the side. I like these battery designs. They're one of my favorite, actually. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but this frame took a pretty good hit right there during shipping. Scratched up the paint, gouged the metal a little bit, and which is a bummer because this thing was packaged very well. I mean, it was double box, double cardboard boxes, lots of foam, bubble wrap, everything zip tied, extra cardboard in there. It was packaged really well, so I don't feel like that was Eunorau's fault at all. It's probably the fault of FedEx or UPS or whoever it was that delivered it that did not handle it with care. And you know, you're gonna see that. I've received many bikes that were damaged, scratched levers, discolored paint, dented rims, you name it. I've seen it all. I've gotten a lot of bikes shipped to me, so not surprising. This one took a little bit of damage on it. I'm not overly concerned with that because the bike still functions perfectly. All right, well, back to this battery pack, the 11.6 amp hour battery pack. I'm not gonna lie, I was concerned with that from the start. It's probably one of the smallest batteries I've ever gotten on a bike, and being that it's on a cargo bike where you're going to be carrying extra weight with you, most likely, I was thinking to myself, okay, we are going to just burn through this battery so fast, and that's kind of a bummer, you know, that it's so small and you're going to be forced to buy the extra battery pack just to get a usable range out of it. And I was like, okay, well, let me go test this in the real world. I want to see how far I get. I'll just go hammer out a range test really quick. And it wasn't really quick. I'm still dumbfounded as to how it got such good range, but I rode this bike on a single charge for 29 miles. I don't know how that's possible. Most of the larger batteries I test don't go that far, so this bike is extremely efficient somehow. I don't know if it's a combo of the fast rolling tires, you don't lose any momentum, there's no suspension, maybe the mid-drive motor is more efficient. I don't know. I am not an expert, but somebody can educate me in the comments as to how that was possible that I managed to get 29 miles out of this little battery pack. So you know, adding in a second battery pack, you would probably get some very, very good range out of this bike. So what I'm trying to say is I think this is adequate. This is a usable range out of this little battery pack. And you know, that's, if you add more on there, it's just gonna be gravy. You're gonna get a crazy distance out of it. Well, let's come around to the other side, get a little bit better view. The bike is a step through. Of course, you need that with the cargo bike because you're gonna have stuff on the rear rack. From the ground to getting your foot through that step through there is going to be about 22 inches. The seat had plenty of adjustment. I was able to get it tall enough for me to ride, you know, at 6 feet tall. It's a Velo plush seat. It's not crazy plush. I mean, it's okay. It's a little bit wide, so that helps spread the force out, but it's not super soft. No springs in it, just a handle on the back, which helps while you're trying to get the bike up on a center stand. You've got this massive rear platform here. It's 6 inches wide and 23.5 inches long. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity here. You've got this gigantic piece of real estate. Why doesn't it say Eunorau right there or something? I think there's a nice canvas there for some branding on this bike, but nothing on there, just plain board sitting on there. And there are some accessories you can buy, you know, rear baskets and kid seats that go on here to tailor it for whatever you're going to use it for. And you've got your platform for your feet here. These, they're for resting your feet, I will say that. I tried standing on them and I felt like I was bending them. So they're not meant to be stood upon. These are for sitting on the rear platform here and then just placing your feet here. And these are detachable. I had to mount these when I got the bike. So you can take these off if you want to. The question you might have would be, so if you're pedaling, how close does your heel get to hitting this? I never hit it once, never. So it was out of the way. I did not bump into this at all. No issue with that. But let's swing back over here so we can take a better look at the motor. We've got a 500 watt mid-drive motor made by Tapu. Is that how you say that? Never seen the brand before, but it seemed to work just fine. No issues with that at all. I will point out it's in a plastic casing. I know a lot of times they're enclosed in metal. This one's enclosed in like a hard plastic, so I guess just be careful you don't smash that into something, you can possibly crack it. So here's what I can tell you about this motor. It seemed to have plenty of power. I didn't have any issues climbing hills or running it up to top speed on the level ground. It was fine in its power delivery. It is so quiet. So quiet. You cannot hear this motor at all. I mean, I'm used to being able to hear the hub motors and hear I have a bike that's got a Bafang 750 mid-drive, and you hear that. It sounds like a vacuum cleaner running. This thing is so quiet, and the tires are quiet going down the road, so you are just flying down the road in silence on this bike. It was noticeable how quiet it was instead of noticing the noise. It was noticeably quiet, and it did just fine pulling my 175 pound frame around. I guess here we can stop and take a look at some of the performance footage I took of pedaling this bike and testing top speed and hill climb. So let's take a look at that. All right, we are in mechanical gear 7 and we're in pedal assist 5 for turbo mode. We're gonna do a top speed pedaling here. Okay, see how fast we can pedal this thing. I still have feeling in the pedals. That's all I got. My legs are burning. All right, 0 to 20 acceleration test. We're gonna do this a couple different ways. I wanna see what's better. First way, I put it in mechanical gear 5 because it matters, you know, with the mid-drive. I think you're gonna have to be in gear 5 in order to even reach 20. So let's give that a shot. 3, 2, 1, go. Right about there. All right, now the next way we're gonna try this is I'm gonna start in a lower gear. Let's start in like 2. And then as I gain speed, I'll click up through the gears to see if that helps us accelerate faster or if it slows us down. All right, acceleration to 20 while shifting the mechanical gears this time. 3, 2, 1, go. It might have gone a little quicker. It might have been a little quicker. We'll see. We will see when I review the footage here. We go frame by frame to see, you know, when the bike starts moving to when it hits 20 on the screens. That's how I get the 0 to 20. So, all right, let's do some hill climb tests here. First one, just gonna do throttle only. I put it in mechanical gear 4, and let's just see how it does going up this hill. Here we go, just throttle. So it started off pretty quick, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna die here on the steeper part a little bit. Down to about 12 miles an hour. That's still pretty decent. 10, 11. Pretty good, not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, considering I don't have it in a low gear for torque, you know, I'm in a kind of a mid-range gear there. All right, so I would say it climbed that hill pretty easily actually in 4th gear. Obviously with the mid-drive motor, it matters what mechanical gear you're in when you're trying to do hill climbs. Steeper the hill, the lower the gear you want to be in. So if this was crazy steep, I'd put it in, you know, 1 or 2 just to get all that, you know, mechanical advantage out of those gears. So let's just try it now. We'll leave everything the same, and now I'll just add in some pedaling and see how much easier it gets. So here we go. I mean, just crazy easy. I'm pushing on the pedals. Okay, normally when I do this, it's a cadence sensor, so I just turn them and I don't push. But this I have to push because it's a torque sensor. The bike is, you know, taking my input and determining its output from that. So, I mean, just breezed up that hill so easily. That was crazy easy. All right, we're gonna come out here to this long straight stretch and do a top speed throttle only run. I put it into mechanical gear 7 because, again, mid-drive, you want to go as fast as you can. You got to be in the highest gear you can be in. Let's give it a shot. Slow off the line because we're in that tall gear. Now I've gone in and adjusted the settings to 25 miles an hour instead of 20, so we should hit somewhere around there. About where we are. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get any more. About 25 is your top speed. All right, well, as you can see, I had no issue with the performance on this bike. I had plenty of juice to climb the hills. It got me up to a good speed on level ground. I mean, it's not as powerful, of course, as a Bafang 750, because this is only 500 watt. But it had plenty of power to get me around town. I don't think you'd have any issue throwing some cargo or a couple small kids on the back of this and towing you around town. It seemed to have plenty of power for that. What I'll point out, another thing about this though, is normally the bikes I test have a cadence sensor for your pedal assist, and this has a torque sensor. So instead of realizing when you're pedaling and, you know, running off the cadence of your pedaling, this goes off of how much you are actually pushing on the pedals. It's delivering you power based on how hard you're pushing on the pedal, and it is super duper sensitive. This is the first bike I've ever used that had a torque sensor, and it is very you don't have to wait. It's instantaneous. It knows when you're pushing on the pedal. You know, the cadence sensor, a lot of times you gotta turn the pedals a few times before they'll kick in. This doesn't. It recognizes right away that there's pressure on that pedal, and it gives you power. And you notice it too. As you're pedaling, you know, you push down on the pedal, it's giving you power, and then as your pedal rotates around and you're not pushing as hard at the, you know, bottom and top of the pedal stroke, you can feel the motor kind of cut out a little bit, and then you push hard again and it cuts back in. So it's a little bit in and out in its power delivery, but it's not a, you know, jarring experience. You feel it kind of in and out a little bit, coming on and off just based on that pedal pressure, but I didn't find it annoying or anything like that. It was just fine. I had no issue with the torque sensor. It's kind of more intuitive because you're getting power the harder you push, so it's like a real bicycle, right? All right, what else did I miss on this bike? The gearing, the rear gears, I'll put up on the screen what that rear cassette is. It does have a brake light and tail light. We didn't cover that. It does have a headlight as well, which is up, you know, tall up here. instead of on the front fork. Not super bright, it's more of a, you know, to be seen headlight, not a to see headlight. So if you're riding at night, you're going to want to get another auxiliary headlight, I'm sure. Another thing we didn't cover yet was the kickstand, or the center stand. Now, I'll throw up some video of me taking it down off of and putting it up onto the center stand, but there's no side kickstand, it's center stand only. And here is an important thing to know that I found out while testing this bike, and that is this center stand hangs down pretty low. And if you're going to be jumping over curbs, you know, up and down off of curbs, if doing deliveries or riding around with whatever on the back, you can come down off of the curb just fine. But trying to go up onto the curb, you know, from the road up onto the sidewalk, the center stand hits the curb. So something to just be aware of, you know, so you don't try to pop up on a curb and smash into it and dump your cargo. Now, as far as who can ride this bike, I mean, I was quite comfortable at 6 feet tall riding this. There was plenty of adjustment in the seat and the handlebars to make it very comfortable for me. And this is one of the few bikes actually that my wife was able to get off and on, you know, with the 24-inch wheel tire package and the seat going low enough, you know, she was able to get her feet down and could potentially ride this bike as well. Now, as far as its uses, I'm going to call this, best use is going to be an urban cargo delivery bike, or riding around your neighborhood with small children style bike. I would not buy this if you're planning on, you know, carrying your hunting equipment into the woods or something like that. It doesn't have the suspension to do that. This is, I feel, more of a pavement, smooth pavement style, you know, bike where you're delivering something or hauling other people around. All right, so what are some of the things to keep in mind about this cargo bike from Eunorau? I'll say, number one, the battery pack. Even though it's small at 11.6 amp hours, I found it to be a very usable range. I got 29 miles out of the thing. And then when I recharged it, it went from dead to fully charged in just 4 hours. So small battery pack, but it did have good range. And if you're worried about that, you can always expand and you take advantage of the dual battery system and get another battery to go on there. The other thing I'll say is no suspension on the bike at all. So if you plan on being on bumpy terrain, you're gonna feel it for sure. This shines on the smooth pavement. Another thing to be aware of is that the bike has a mid-drive motor. If you don't know the difference between the rear hub drive and a mid-drive, do yourself a favor, watch a few videos on that, try to learn about it so you understand the differences. But basically, you're gonna have to shift the mechanical gears on this bike a little bit more. I know a lot of people ride the hub drives, they just put it in one gear and it stays there the whole time, and they just use the throttle. That's not the best method for driving the mid-drive bike. You're gonna have to shift the gears. When you're climbing a hill, you wanna be in a low gear. When you're trying to attain top speed, you gotta be in high gear. So just know that you're gonna have to ride it a little bit differently. As far as things I like about the bike, I liked how, I guess, accessible, or how easy it was to get off and on. You know, it's the step through, so it's easy to get on for me, even though I'm really tall. I like that about it. I like the adjustment in the handlebars and the seat. It allowed me to get into a very comfortable riding position. I like to be nice and tall and upright when I'm riding. The handlebars allowed for that, so it was a very comfortable riding position for me. I like how quiet it is. This thing is whisper quiet. You can go 25 miles an hour down the road. The tires are like silent. The motor is like silent. So it's a nice, peaceful, smooth, quiet ride. I like that about it. Another thing I liked was the display screen. I think it's a really good looking display screen. Other, I guess, negatives for me or dislikes, the center stand. I get it. I know why it has a center stand. You want the bike to be level while you're loading it because it's a cargo bike. I just wish that there was also a side stand where you could pick one or the other. So I found myself, because I wasn't carrying anything, I didn't need a center stand. I would rather had the side stand. So it'd be cool if you had both on there. And the last, I'll say, dislike for me was the lack of suspension. I like a really soft, cushy ride. And as long as you're on the paved roads, this is just fine, but I tend to venture off the paved path, so you feel the bumps on this one, that's for sure. Well, that is my take on the cargo bike from Eunorau. I will, of course, link the bike in the description below so you can get there easily if you want to check out all the detailed specifications, see the purchase options, and if you are researching cargo bikes. I hope you found some helpful information in this video. If you did, do me a favor, consider hitting the like button for me. It helps me out on YouTube. And thank you to Eunorau for letting me have the chance to ride and test this bike. Much appreciated. And I think that's all for today. So thank you so much for watching.